So today being Cinco de Mayo, this is kind of within my history of being Latino and the trials of my family. So it goes like this. My skin, brown and beautiful, yet a rugged coat that covers veins that mimic tree roots that lay over the dust of my bones. These veins, they look like roots that were left from an uprooted, forgotten family tree, having me plant seeds in the missing person section of my life with ideas of what I thought a family was that I learned from pop-up books growing up. And that word, family, bangs in the back of my head like a recycled hip-hop beat as my childhood memories beat me up, showing me I was never really worth your time. And I remember times of watching my grandparents grip rosary beads like they were trying to strangle God the day that he rested, allowing me to be conceived. And the day that I was received into this world, I was born with the mentality I was a natural disaster, born on all fault lines of the family problems, the way you spoke of me like I was a result of a broken condom mistake, but there was no pills to abort the firing squad of lies you gunned me down with. Like I was your target practice to show God he was lazy with my creation, causing verbal wars in households, saying I'm a disgrace to the Romero name. Well, if that is true, then y'all know better than the dirt our ancestors have died on, causing Spanish to be cremated on the back of my vocal cords, making me lose my native tongue the day you spoke me out of family portraits. And picture this. I found refuge in a family who had more melanin in their skin than me. They saw the cotton field of a heart that had been picked apart, my vulnerability hanging next to their ancestry. And your abandonment still to this day has built me like a foster care system. A soul like the city, a mouth full of silver bullets, a heart that looks like an exploded grenade with prayers aimed to the heavens that one day I will know what it will be like to sit at a family reunion, laugh until the generations of our blood are shaken like a rumble bar fight. I can count the generations of my cousins like duck, duck, goose, you it, just to see if they'll chase us to close the distance between us. But there's been no conversation between us for years. Like La Migra is circling my I love yous and forgive yous, preventing them from crossing that unspoken border. And you, speaking of me as your grandson and nephew, are words that will never gain citizenship in your vocabulary. But I'm over this family feud and war within myself. One day, I will meet a gal who wants to take these roots and plant them to grow our own family tree. And we'll do it on the foundation of my parents. A mother who has a smile like a quinceañera on a summer day. Or a father who has the heart of an Aztec warrior. And when we plant this family tree, it will grow to be stronger than ever. Thank you. Drinking mimosas. I didn't know y'all was gonna be that loud. I see y'all. I'm like, where the champagne? Where y'all got going over here? I swear it sound like y'all on my block right now. This is crazy. This last poem, Caitlin put it in the write-up. A great friend of mine is from Sudan, and this is just about as far as our cultures and what it was like to clash with somebody being Latino and her being from Sudanese, and just the difference in our cultures and how infatuated I was with it. So this is my last poem, everybody. I want to thank you for listening to my story and welcoming me out here. And so this poem is called Prayer for Her. I remember the morning when your name echoed its way into my prayer, like the tap-dancing vocal cords of Ella Fitzgerald, when I thanked God for allowing me to know the delicacy of your skin. It holds sunrises that even the greatest of painters could not recreate. I wonder what God was inspired by when crafting the masterpiece of your heart. Were your curls given to you to show people what our sound waves look like when we laugh together, or to show you that some wars are just better untamed? Your hair is a timeline that never needed to be straightened out. The proof of the pyramids your ancestors were doubted of building can be found at the curve of your lower back. You hold a revolution in your hips. Tell me, what is it like to love in Arabic? What is it like to know that your native tongue is even something the heavens pray in? You are an answered prayer turned God's greatest poem. You have the capability to make bullets reconsider their route. You are proof for why men should not go to war. I want to rub the recognition of Darfur out of the cracks of your hands. I want to hug you until all the vandalism these ghostly men have caused on your heart disappears. I want to play connect the dots with all of your scars, piecing together all the things the nation you hold in your lips have lost. I will go to any length to show the women of your bloodline to never fear how beautiful they are because you are a product of them. This is not a poem from me to you. This is a prayer for forgiveness of my ignorance. I don't even know how to pronounce the city that has the blueprints to your Mediterranean smile that skips across your face like hummingbirds kissing for the first time on a summer day until we met. I was too selfish for Ramadan. I have no idea what it feels like to have the once connected Egypt laugh the words disposable at your homeland. I haven't traveled much, let alone to Sudan. So on days that you and I spend dancing around New York City, I will pretend those imposter pyramids that we call skyscrapers will pull from 300 feet beneath the cold concrete where your history have been buried so long ago on hot summer days. We spend hopping subway cars. I tell myself we are stomping African ground to piece together all the questions you have of your homeland together, you delicate and well-crafted treasure chest. You are the most beautiful book I have ever read. The most lovely motion picture I watch in slow motion. You are probably like 5 foot 2 inches on an extremely good day. Like a really good day. When your hair puffs out like the chest of your warrior mother to show this world how much history your roots hold, the calluses on your hands are fossil evidence that your ancestors used to build. You are proof that us men can help lay a solid foundation, but you are the reason that the vulnerable pyramids built in our chests stay standing upright. Yo, thank you.
American people do with that. Oh, I beg your pardon, a welcoming song. This is just a little theme and variation, so for all the literateurs, this is just like the essay form. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it's short. It's a little theme and variations on Amazing Grace. And when Sir James Galway heard me do this, he said, I want you to write me a flute concerto. He said, but I don't play jazz or Latin music, so write everything out the way Brahms did, and I'll play it. So I mentioned that to all of you who are authors and writers, the beauty of everyday speech. What Dante did when he took that terza rima, and what so many great writers have done, where they take everyday speech of everybody and find the beauty in every person who crosses the path and look for that. It's amazing, all that knowledge and wisdom and beauty that's just out there that we're surrounded by. So this is just one of those great little songs, and this will be a little spontaneous piece, not something that I composed. Little theme and variations on Amazing Grace. I thank all of you for coming. I thank all of you for keeping literature and the intellectual world alive in a postmodern era where we're all supposed to be Even an 82-year-old functional illiterate who was told all my life that I'm genetically incapable to even understand a sentence, much less read one or dare to write one. Being around people who have higher IQs than I do has always and continues to inspire me, including being here today with all of you. It's a real honor to be part of this. Amazing Grace, theme and variations. out what to read would be appropriate for all of you. And since I know things are kind of rough now, I thought I would read something that I wrote back in the 1960s. I'm sure you could ask your parents what a great time everybody was having then. And having purposely remained unfashionable my whole life, I was really out of fashion at that time, during the 30 seconds of mediocrities that everybody's searching desperately for. So I wanted to just read you a little something. This was after I wrote the book Vibrations, which is now in its 5th printing. Sterling Lord, the great literary agent, who was Jack Kerouac's literary agent, he's now 90, just had his book come out. I met in 1956, and he called me up and he said, "Congratulations, Dave, you've broken Jack's record." I said, "What?" He said, "You have more rejections than Jack did." That was for the reissue. Now all 3 of my books are out with a tiny mom and pop publisher called Paradigm Press, because the person who read it after 27 rejections actually read what I wrote and liked it. I was so shocked that he liked what I did. I thought maybe they couldn't be that good. So this is what it was like in the 1960s when I was giving some coaching of how to write something more relevant. That's one of the foul words that should be excised from the language, being relevant. And Alan Rinsler was a wonderful editor who helped me out. Shortly after I had handed Alan Rinsler the final manuscript of Vibrations, I was told by a friend who worked for the publisher that the head of the sales department was worried that what I had written about in my book did not relate in any way to the burgeoning pop culture of 1968. My friend suggested that I consult with a brilliant young writer who could help guide me towards rewriting the book to make it more commercial. He has written reviews for his college paper about rock and roll. He's very with it, I was told by the head of the sales department when I went into his office to inquire about this mystery man. He's extremely hip. He knows all about the ins and outs of flower power, what the trends are before they become trendy. He can help you with your wardrobe, so that when you make personal appearances, you give a more groovy image. Today, it's not enough to write a book. You have to have a look. I could see him grimacing at me like an angry owl through his horn-rimmed glasses as he checked out my janitorial garb. I was wearing my old stained floppy gray turtleneck sweater that I wore when I played Mez McGillicuddy, the deranged French hornist, in Jack Kerouac, Alfred Leslie, and Robert Sprank's underground 1959 film, Pull My Daisy. I got the sweater in 1953 while in the Army, and always kept it for special occasions. I told him a rambling history about the places the sweater and I had been in the last 15 years. This is my lucky literary sweater. The hole in this sleeve was burned there by mistake when Terry Southern lurched me into it with a cigarette in 1955 during a jam session I was playing at with Lionel Hampton in Paris. "That's what I mean," said the head of the sales department in a clipped quasi-Edwardian executive nasalese tone. "You're dated, David. You're dropping names that no longer mean anything. You've got to learn the lingo of psychedelia. This young man we are recommending can help your case. He's very bright. He's a personal friend of the Monkees' manager. He's very with it, turned into the dynamics of today's youth market's vast purchasing power." "Sounds like a fabulous cat. I'm sure I'll learn something new," I said, and I can never pass up a good meal. As I went home on the subway, I wondered what the brilliant young advisor would be like. I was curious to see where he was coming from. I met the young troubleshooting youth culture expert 2 days later. He looked like a razor-thin version of Groucho Marx. He was wearing bell-bottom pants, a Nehru jacket with tantric beads, topped with a gigantic hairdo that sprouted like a thick mass of porcupine pills from his head. He squinted at me through his magenta-tinted granny glasses with a faraway, terminally stoned-out look. They seem focused on an extraterrestrial traveling in outer space. As you may know, David, I've been recently hired as the company freak to be a sales liaison for today's youth market. I drop acid at least 3 times a week. I'm in tune with the new revolutionary consciousness of the age of Aquarius. Let's be brutally frank, David. The people you wrote about in your book may be important to you. They are no longer important to anyone else. They are has-beens and nobodies. No one cares about jazz and symphonic music anymore. The theater and painting and poetry are obsolete. You can no longer épater la bourgeoisie with old art forms. Life is now expressed in flashes of the moment. TV commercials are the only art form. The media is the message. Your book will never make it. There's no real sex described in detail. You're living in the past. This is the 60s, man. Thank you for your advice, I said. I respect your knowledge of merchandising, but I think that young people today need to hear about something that they have not heard about. That's why I wrote the book. I told the truth. I'm keeping it exactly the way I wrote it. No one else has lived my life. I tried to honor those who have made it possible for me to do what I have done. No one does it alone. Yes, but I don't know how to say this, David, without hurting your feelings, but the people you mention in your book are not only passé, but totally irrelevant. Time will tell, I said. We finished our meal in silence. That night I called Jack Kerouac and told him of my conversation. He roared with laughter. Send me the book, Davy, and I'll critique it for you. We both shared each other's endless monologues and stories. Everyone has a story to tell. If you've written it the way you talk, it will have its own sound, just like your music. They say my work is no longer relevant. Some of my books are being remaindered, others are already out of print. I can't even get Visions of Cody published, thanks to George Johnson.
Yeah!
Now, this was 68. The critics are ignoring my work as if I never existed. But we're not irrelevant, Davy. We're here for the duration. Turn your back and the other cheek to the Philistines. Stick to your guns.
Yes.
I mailed Jack the manuscript, and he sent me back a quote for the publisher to use in the dust jacket. He called me the following week to congratulate me. We talked for about an hour, laughing about our spontaneous barnstorming tours through New York City's parties, bars, coffee houses, and park benches, about our first ever jazz poetry readings given in 1957. Then I played the French horn and the piano into the phone as he read parts of On the Road we used to do together. And then we improvised words and music. The ghosts of Eric Satie and Baudelaire now have completed a monthly soiree of words and music over the phone. Beau séjour, Davy. Sois tranquille. Stick to your guns. Remember Ruskin in his tortured nightshirt, saying an artist must burn with a heart a gem-like flame. Or was it Slim Galliard or Harry the Hipster or Fats Navarro or Lord Buckley or Walter Pater? Qui sait? Je m'en fous, but don't ever give up. We'll be relevant when all those other shysters and Philistines have had their day. Charlie Parker, Bartok, Proust, Thomas Wolfe, and Walt Whitman. They're yet to be truly appreciated. They're yet to be discovered. Someday when we're old men, we'll be in our hammocks with toothpicks and rejoice at all the work we've done and smile like Buddha and pray for all our friends yet to be discovered. In the past 32 years since Vibrations was published, Jack and many of us have been discovered or rediscovered. I was and still am one of the lucky ones of our generation. I was blessed with health and energy. In 1979, I finally got married, had 3 incredible children, and gave up all my remaining bad habits so I could bring them up and try to be as good an example to them as my father had been to me. I'm still writing music nonstop, which is now being recorded and performed all over the world, etc., etc., etc. But at the very end, I wanted just in my remaining 2 minutes to read you something of the very end of the second book I wrote called Offbeat, collaborating with Kerouac. And Joyce is here, who is the greatest writer about Kerouac that we've ever had, and also a great writer in her own right, so she can answer any questions you have about Jack in a very, very special way, and her own fantastic books, which she's done. And also I want to say what a joy it is to be with you two guys as well.
Thank you.
And see what you're doing. Because when I go to schools and colleges, I'm always trying to say how our gig, especially when you get over 80, is to try to foster creativity in others. And it's more exciting to see what other people are doing rather than to look in the mirror and be a winologist, blameologist, plumb out artist and say, the good old days, this really sucks, because that's not the gig. And I would, on behalf of all those people that I mentioned, Charlie Parker, whom I was blessed to know as a kid, Jack Kerouac, Leonard Bernstein when I was composer in residence with the Philharmonic, all these amazing people were mostly concerned about fostering creativity in others. When you played with the jazz masters, they would always say, tell your story. Don't copy what I'm doing. Use what I'm doing that you love and use that as a foundation for your story to be autobiographical, to do what Dostoevsky and everyone else has ever done, whose books last, to tell the stories as you see them, as you've experienced them. Everyone's born with a story. Everyone's born with a song. Everyone's born with creativity. So the main thing is not to let it get stomped out. Ignore career counselors. And remember two things. First of all, what you do to pay your rent has no bearing on your value as an artist or a person. Secondly, in our society, what you deserve and what you get have nothing to do with one another. And remember all those great artists, and Jack and I used to talk about how when Bach had a club date to write Tafelmusik, dinner music, for the Margrave of Brandenburg, for a picnic that they were having, he wrote those Brandenburg concertos. I looked on Google to see what the menu was that the Margrave of Brandenburg served, and I don't think it's there anymore. But he showed out what the dinner music was like, because Bach exceeded the limitations of his club date. And when Michelangelo was supposed to do an interior decoration job on the Sistine Chapel, he spent 4 years while they were screaming at him to get it finished. He left us with those beautiful paintings. When the people in the Lascaux cave paintings about 20-some thousand years ago were putting all that stuff in the caves, they didn't have an art dealer or a career counselor or an attorney. They were just doing that to document what they loved that they wanted other people to see. And that's kind of all of our gigs. If you're writers or whatever you do, you try to pass on some of that beauty and honor those who came before you. So this is just the very end of the book I wrote called Offbeat, Collaborating with Kerouac. And I have some copies here if anybody wants to buy them. If not, keep writing your own book. That's most important. I've spoken to John Samples, who is the executor of the Kerouac's estate. We did a big thing at the library, and Joyce was there that night, and then Patti Smith came and played, and they had sold Jack's manuscript. It was incredible. So I called up John Samples, that's Jack's brother-in-law, the next day after the event at the library, before he drove back to Lowell, Massachusetts. Jack has conquered New York, I said. I always knew he would, said John. It was just a matter of time. It seemed now that what Jack and I dreamed of, spontaneity and formality, was not such an offbeat idea anymore. And I knew that I had to go home right night and take the moments that seemed to have happened by themselves and use them in the piano concerto I was writing. It was a thrill to see so many people at such a stellar event, but I knew I had to go back to work. Like Jack, I knew that the solitary task of getting it down on paper was what I had to do. I'm now more than ever able to treasure those moments alone. I can compose in the delicious silence that in itself is the supreme element of all musical creation. And wherever I am in the world and on the road, in those places of silence composing, Dizzy Gillespie's words stay in my memory. I'll do this forever, Dizzy said. That's why God put me here, to play this music. Sometimes when I'm composing, I spend a whole day writing and rewriting every measure of music to get it just right. My orchestral scores are impeccable, and I spend most of my commission money having the scores and parts recopied and recopied again, with every tiny nuance, tempo change, metronome marking, dynamic, and phrase clearly indicated. But the music, the breathing, living, human, mystical, mysterious parts comes naturally. That naturalness is what Jack and I strive for when we perform together, and when we wrote alone, we created formal works, his books and my symphonies, inspired by the natural energy of these real-life experiences. When we performed together, we were celebrating the moment, dealing with the informal and daring to improvise like tightrope walkers. We wanted to create formal works built to last that retained this same energy. That's what we were all about. That was the basis of our friendship and our work together. When I go to high schools, colleges, or any place now where there are young people today, they all know who Jack Kerouac is. None of them now tell me he was the king of the beatniks. They tell me they read his books. That's why Jack's ultimate triumph is here. His work speaks for itself. Until the very end, through all the pain and rejection, he continued to write. When I talked to him on the phone in those last sad months, in the late night, early morning phone calls, he still spoke of work he had to do and dreams he wished to fulfill. I feel blessed and lucky to still be here in my early 80s. I try every day to share the joy of seeing my own dreams in music finally coming true. I also try every day in some small way to share that gift of Jack's spirit, energy, and human kindness with everyone I meet. Jack's work can enable future generations to look back on the second half of the 20th century and see the beauty part. When Jack and I used to talk of his desire to find his lost Canadian Indian heritage, I reminded him of the Navajo prayer of the 12th night, how men and women prayed as they walked together on that trail of beauty. I sang to him some of the old songs I had learned from Native American musicians. Jack and I both prayed in different languages, but the trail of beauty remained the same. Many of us walked and still walk on that trail today. It is accessible to anyone and it is endless. If you stand tall as Jack did throughout his life and walk that trail of beauty, you will surely meet him there someday.